Olá a todos! Привет, друзья! So it is around, it is the start of April, and I don't know if you could, I mean, see it in my face or whatever, but it has been a very busy first quarter of the year 2022, and I have not been putting a lot of time into my languages. Um, when I started in June of last year with Portuguese, I was messages. I was able to be listen and read and practice for an average of 3 hours a day, and I was very motivated to actually reach my goal at for at least for Portuguese. And then in December last year, I started um, a few minutes or at least an hour a day for um, Russian, and I've been using Link a lot and listening to the mini stories and the stories, and I also got a book from by Ollie Richards, short stories in Russian. I have the beginner and the intermediate level, and I have started to read through that as well. Um, my At least my reading and comprehension, reading of the words and letters are easier right now, although I don't understand and I can't pronounce them correctly. But if the words are like shorter, it's easier for me to read them, and at least 90% of the time my pronunciation of the word would be correct, which is for the time that I have spent with Russian, I think it is something that's already, um, it's something that I can be happy about. Um, and yeah, basically, I think I am at the point where I guess you could say burned out by language learning, or I guess it's just that I have other things that I have to prioritize, and that does take up time from learning languages, especially focusing on something. Although, because one of my projects right now is actually making chocolate, and I still have a lot of downtime. At least I could do passive listening while I'm doing that. So it's not totally that I do not have time for it. Um, I guess it's just the mental um, space that um, trying to understand Russian at least. Because with Portuguese, I could easily just, like, there was one time I was working on something and I just turned on the Euro news in Portuguese and I just listened to it. Um, and interesting enough is that if you, what's interesting is that if you turn on the news channel and just leave it on, in my case, YouTube, if you just leave it on for an hour or something, you would, at least I noticed, even before, like when I was watching on cable TV instead of YouTube, which YouTube right now has like live um, live videos that is basically similar to what they would be showing on cable TV. The news of the day more often than not just repeats itself. So I believe at that time it was like 2 weeks into the Russian invasion. So I kept hearing uh, Russia, Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine, and those two words. And I think it was something about a flood in Rio de Janeiro. And because the information kept repeating itself over and over and over and again, over and over again, there was a lot of repeated words, phrases that eventually I know helped, made its way into my subconscious and helps with language comprehension in the long run because as a lot of language learners know, or people who were born into families who are already multilingual or in countries where you would have a national language and you would have a local language, and if your family is an immigrant family, you would have the immigrant, like the mother tongue of your immigrant and parents or grandparents. And I mean, for people who have that kind of experience, which I believe is most of the world, then not. Because if you do live in Europe or you live in, I believe, Africa, one of the countries in those continents, um, there's a high probability that you speak at least two, because obviously you have your local language and English, and everybody's forced to learn English, and then you would have your provincial language or your tribal language or something like that. So, and it's not it's not knowing how to speak all those languages is not something that happened overnight. Your parents would have taught you. You would have heard it since you were a child, and if you're an adult, that would be 21 years, 18 years of your life, listening and hearing all of these sounds, these different words, these different tones, these different patterns of language. So that's basically um, okay. So yeah, and realizing that where I am right now with these two languages is that once again my Portuguese had around 7 months ahead than my Russian, and comparing the languages that I already know prior to trying to acquire Portuguese and the languages that I know prior to trying to acquire Russian, I have a bigger head start with Portuguese. Be Practiced capoeira for years before, um, and speaking English, Filipino, Cebuano, our languages using the Latin alphabet, and especially with Filipino and Cebuano, a lot of borrowed words from Spanish, and the similarities between Portuguese and Spanish is there, so the connection is easier. Um, so with Russian, I'm still enjoying it, but I find myself not wanting to listen to a lot of it. Even when I'm working out or in the morning, it's like I am doing research for something else, so that takes up time. And like I said, if I spent 3 hours on average for Portuguese when I started, when I was focusing on Portuguese, right now, I expect to give myself 3 hours with Russian and maybe an hour or so or less for Portuguese. But because of things that I'm doing right now, the new projects and some other things, the time, I would have to give more less time to Russian. So I would expect my progress in Russian to be delayed further. So probably, I don't know when I'm going to get to B1 level, I guess. But um, whenever I do watch the Russian channels on YouTube that I watch, um, the words that are repeated, or that are more common for beginners, or like basic, что это, потому что, something that, those things, I could pick them out of a sentence if the person speaks, not too fast. So I don't know if I'm like really burnt out, or I'm just busy with other things, or you know. But I have been enjoying the process, since June of 2021, and it's like with, I guess what I could think of, it's like with, a program for, like a workout program. Sometimes you need to take a break from that program, switch up the program depending on how you feel. Of course, you dedicate like a chunk of 3 months to actually, get something out of the program. But if you're not in the mental space to actually continue, or if you just need a break, you basically have to listen to yourself and give yourself a break. Because in the end, the things that we do outside of work are supposed to be things that help us, um, balance our lives. So it's supposed to be enjoyable. And just like what Steve Kaufman says, the founder of Link, um, if you stop, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then your attention, your progress would go down. And like with anything, if your heart's not in it, your head's not in it, it's going to affect. So right now, I'm giving myself enough, like I'm giving myself a break. So if I do just 30 minutes a day, just even if the only thing I do is read the stuff the stories on Link, which I enjoy reading stories. Even if I just read like a couple of pages of Harry Potter y Pedra Filosofal, or Gary Potter, Gary Potter in Russian. So then, so be it. It's not a race, or the race is only with myself. And if I say that I don't want to be in that race right now because I have other things that I have to be focusing on, then so be it. So, yeah, if this helps anyone, in their language learning journey, um, this happens, and just give yourself a break and give your mind a break. And when once you come back, if based on experience with different workout programs, once I get back on the program after 1, 2, or even a month's break from that particular program, my muscles and my body feels more refreshed and ready to. Most of the time, I actually improve a lot. Like if I carry, like 13 or 15 pounds, once I come back, I would do like one session of like, lighter weights, and then heavier weights, and then I would pick up from where I left off. Usually, I'm stronger after that. So I guess for the brain is also a muscle. Sometimes it needs to rest. So give it a rest. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Ciao. Paka paka.